like that. So moving into segueing that of what to think about on the time of death, today is the disappearance of Srila Madhavendra Puri, and we see similarly at the disappearance of Madhavendra Puri, he was meditating upon Krishna and thinking of Krishna. And but before we get there, I got to make sure I have time, but to end on that. But so Srila Madhavendra Puri is an important, super important personality in our parampara, specifically in the sense that it's described in multiple places that that pretty much like he was the first one to display like the ecstatic symptoms and Lord Chaitanya's and that like sampradaya, like specifically coming down, not specifically that sampradaya, but like that branch, so to say. Because before Lord Chaitanya came, anyways, it was ecstasy and things like that were there, but there wasn't this this love as separation wasn't prevalent, and then this gopi bhav and such and things like that. So it's described in one place that Madhavendra Puri, he learned the codes of devotional service from Lakshmipati Tirtha, who was his spiritual master, and who was a disciple of Vyas Tirtha. So it's described that Lakshmipati Tirtha traveled and went to Bengal, and then there he met Madhavendra Puri and initiated. I don't know so much the details of that, but so then it goes on to continue to say that, so he's attributed for, so anyways like that, first displaying like the symptoms of love of Godhead. And so, and it's important because this is like a central mood and point of our, lack of a better word, philosophy, or siddhanta, like that. And so there's a verse here, I'll just chant that. This is from the Adi Lila of Chaitanya Charitamrita. So, Jaya Shri Madhava Puri, Krishna Prem Pura, Bhakti Kalpatarura, Te no Pratama an Ankura. So the translation is, all glories to Sri Madhavendra Puri, the storehouse of all devotional service unto Krishna. He is a desired tree of devotional service, and it is in him that the seed of devotional service first fructified. So when Krishna comes to this planet, he sends his associates, and he sends associates before him and after him. So Madhavendra Puri was sent before him to kind of, as a service, to kind of lay that foundational work. In that sense, to start displaying this this level of Krishna consciousness that Lord Chaitanya wanted to give, and also wanted to experience, because that's points mentioned in the beginning of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, that Lord Chaitanya had internal reasons for appearing and external reasons for coming. Coming soon in Gaur Purnima on Thursday. So Lord Chaitanya had his reasons for appearing. And so Madhavendra Puri also, he came to similarly to experience and relish those internal meanings. So just continuing, so just a little bit of the life of Madhavendra Puri. So Madhavendra Puri is an amazing devotee, actually. All of Lord Chaitanya's associates are amazing. I would probably say at least when I first moved into the temple, as far as I can remember, I was kind of like, I got the opportunity to hear a lot about Madhavendra Puri, because one devotee, just randomly, we would like read different things from Bhagavatam, and then randomly one day he decided like, we'll just read like this pastime of Madhavendra Puri. So I was like, oh, okay. So that was kind of like my first reading in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, was just hearing about Lord Chaitanya describing the pastime of Madhavendra Puri. So whose phone's connected, actually? So I'm going to airdrop you some photos. You can pull them up. Give me a second. I'm kind of slow with this sometimes. I should have done that before. So, okay, class. Let me see if I can do this. Alrighty. You got your airdrop on?
I don't know.
Jita Gadish. All right, I'm sending it to you. So, accept it. So there's 5 photos there, and you can start by pulling up, I guess that second one. Well, actually, don't pull up that one. Let's pull up the third one. Or actually, the first one, sorry. They're a little bit out of order. first one. So that's the one with Madhavendra Puri looking at Krishna. Okay. So this is, so anyways, get back into it. So Madhavendra Puri, it's described, so in the beginning of that chapter, so Krishnadas Kaviraj makes the point that he's just describing a little bit, and that so much has been described in the Chaitanya Bhagavat by Vrindavandas Thakur. And in Chaitanya Bhagavat, there's the mention of the meeting of Madhavendra Puri with Nityananda Prabhu, and also with the Dvaita Acharya. So Madhavendra Puri, he meets Lord Chaitanya, and they embrace, and then they begin to exhibit ecstatic symptoms, like tears flowing from the eyes, rolling on the ground, all these different things like that. And they don't know whether it's day or night. And we see that's a common thing with Madhavendra Puri and these great devotees. They don't know whether it's day or night. And it can be hard to explain because, right now, is it day or is it night? I mean, we just look at the clock. Kind of looks like night because it's kind of looks like it's a droomy day, a drooly day. But even, this day from Madhavendra Puri, it's described that when he would see darkish rain clouds, he would think of Krishna and then immediately faint in ecstasy. So his level of Krishna consciousness was intense and high level. And it was sometimes difficult for him to function within this world. But one important point to note, which we'll see also with Madhavendra Puri, is that though he was experiencing the highest levels of Krishna consciousness and separation, he was extremely practical, and he got things done on the practical level, as far as organizing festivals and he was a good manager also, which is interesting. And we see that with Srila Prabhupada also and other great acharyas. Though they may be in the highest rungs of Krishna consciousness, they're able to do things in this world in a very efficient way. So Madhavendra Puri was, can we say he was roaming in Vrindavan? He was experiencing the highest levels of Krishna consciousness in Vrindavan. And one day while sitting beneath the tree, a Krishna person, they came to him, and we could see in this picture, and gave him some milk. And so he was sitting, and he was wondering, because it's described, I believe, in one place that Madhavendra Puri, his level of renunciation was, there's different levels. So to beg is that's one level. And then to, what's it called? And then to ask, to ask someone to eat, that's okay, that's pretty renounced. But his level was he wouldn't even ask anybody. If someone gave something, he would eat. If not, he wouldn't eat. So he was just roaming around in this way. So Krishna understood, and there's the point he's made that no one in his village grows hungry, and people saw him over there sinning, and so they sent him to send some milk. So anyways, Madhavendra Puri takes that milk, and Krishna goes off, because it's in the morning, because Krishna, I think he says, he's going to go, he has to go take care of the cows or something like that, or take the cows out. And so Madhavendra Puri is sitting there, and he's thinking, and he's wondering who was that beautiful boy that came to see him. So there's so many different elements of that, but we can see one aspect of this pastime is that Krishna takes care of his devotees that are fully surrendered unto him. And we see that in so many different pastimes, that Krishna is actually eager to serve his devotees. So anyways, Madhavendra Puri, he washes that pot, and he leaves it, and he waits for that boy to come, but that boy doesn't come back. And then it's there that he has a dream where Krishna comes and takes him to, he explains that I'm here, buried, there's the sun, the rain, I'm suffering. And that, that Krishna's actually suffering. But that the point is that there's a form of Krishna that is buried in the jungle, and somewhere somewhere in Vrindavan. And so he tells Madhavendra Puri that you please come and get me out of here. So Madhavendra Puri has that dream, and then he goes, and I believe with some help, he excavates a Gopal deity from the woods. And then that deity is established on top of Govardhan. So you can pull up this picture here. Anyways, you have them all, or do you have to click? You can swipe. So keep swiping. Swipe again. So this one. So then they establish that Gopal deity, and Madhavendra Puri organizes a huge festival. And so anyways, I'm just giving it in brief, because otherwise we'd be here all day. So Madhavendra Puri organizes that, and so much rice is cooked, so many different preparations are cooked, described as huge mounds, and everybody's super fired up for this festival. And then he installs the deity, and then he also does the deity installation. So then there's the 5 kinds of products from the cow that are used and bathe that deity, and it's a huge ecstatic festival, and everybody's fired up and excited. So then, practically talking, though, Madhavendra Puri was on the highest levels of Krishna consciousness. He got this whole festival going and established that. So we can learn from that also that Krishna consciousness doesn't just mean sitting idly and chanting Hare Krishna and experiencing the highest platforms of Krishna consciousness, but it also means to induce others to take to Krishna consciousness and to celebrate Krishna's pastimes and to make facility for that for other devotees and people to engage in Krishna service. So shortly after that, Madhavendra Puri had another dream in which Gopal told him that pretty much like to go to Jagannath Puri and get some sandalwood pulp because he's hot. And so Madhavendra Puri had that dream and immediately left. And so it's difficult to understand because nowadays, if we want to go somewhere, we just, what should we do? We just fly Spirit because it's cheap. But there was no Spirit Airlines back in those days, and there wasn't some cheap cars or something like that. He walked, and I don't know how long of a walk that is, but it's not a short walk. It's probably some weeks or something. So he walked all the way there, and then so on that en route on that journey. Anyways, there's so many different details I'm leaving out. So you can go back. I think it's go another one. So it's described here that he went to this Ramuna temple. And so this is some of the devotees here went there when they went to India. I guess it's you, Vishnu-Prabhu, huh? So you're the only one that's here. So he went to that temple on the way. And so it's described that, so he was in that temple and he was getting darshan of the deity. So you can go to the next picture because that's the deity there. And so he was thinking at that point in time about the sweet rice of Gopinath. And so he was thinking how he would like to taste that. And then he was thinking, oh, what am I doing? Like, it's not even like prasadam, this and that. Like, this is like ridiculous. So he left that place. And so Gopinath here hid some sweet rice, and the Pujari found that later. I think the Pujari also had a dream also or something, that this sweet rice, I've saved this for Madhavendra Puri, he's my great devotee, like please give this to him. And so that Pujari was very excited about that and was calling out to Madhavendra Puri and saying how fortunate you are. So we see again that Krishna is serving his devotee. He gave him some milk earlier, and then also now here he is again, giving him some sweet rice, taking care of him. And so Madhavendra Puri came and took that sweet rice and tried it and ate it, and described that he saved. I think he would save this pot also. So as a result of that, this Gopinath became known as Kshirachora Gopinath. And I believe this is also too that temple is where Lord Chaitanya, he's telling the devotees the glories of Madhavendra Puri, this pastime. So it's described also that, it's an interesting point actually. There's so many different things we could learn for that. So Madhavendra Puri, being afraid of reputation, the Yud word is pratishta, he left that place. Because he was thinking people will think I'm a great devotee, this and that. It's like time to move on. So that's also there to teach us that to be wary of the burden that comes with reputation of doing things in Krishna consciousness, of being recognized as a great devotee. We may not be in that position where if we're being recognized to be able to leave or something, but we should at least cultivate that internal mentality that this is not good and not be fired up about that. Because we don't see that Madhavendra Puri after that happened, that, he paraded the streets and, promoted himself as such a great, I am he, Madhavendra Puri, who they took the sweet rice from. He immediately left. He wasn't so fired up for that. So anyways, he that's there to teach us. Anyways, we understand these great devotees, they can handle that and they can take that reputation. So in that way, he headed for Jagannath Puri, and he got the sandalwood and camphor. It was a lot, actually. I didn't write it down, but it was some measurement I didn't understand, and then I tried to find it, but then I couldn't find it. But it was, anyways, I have no clue. It was something like mounds and tolas, which I don't know what that is. But anyways, the king gave him 2 servants to bring that that sandalwood and camphor back. So on the way back, he had a dream that Gopinath wanted that sandalwood. Kishore Gopinath wanted that sandalwood put on his body. Well, he had a dream that Gopal told him that you smear that sandalwood on Kishore Gopinath, and then if you do that, that will be the same as applying it on my body. So if you go a little bit, there's a picture of that also. Yeah, that's the one. He had that dream. So it's a nice picture. So he had that dream. And so he told like the servants at the temple that you just do this. I got all this sandalwood and camphor. These Brahmins. It's an interesting point actually. So he said these Brahmins will help you. You get some other people. I'll personally arrange for their salary that you do this and you make the sandalwood and then you put it on Gopinath's body, because I had this dream that that Gopal back in Vrindavan said that, that's the same thing, and this is true. Who can understand Krishna? He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He said like this, and so they were very happy to do that. And so they accepted that. And another just practical point is, and I thought that was interesting also, that Madhavendra Puri, he was telling them to engage somebody and that he'll personally arrange for their salary. So even like that too, he's taking care of individuals and helping them engage in Krishna service. And that culture was there and things like that. As a small little detail, I didn't realize so many times after reading this past time. So jumping a little bit further, kind of winding up some. So when Lord Chaitanya is traveling around, I forget exactly where this is at, but he's traveling around and preaching. He goes into one city. I don't know if this is Varanasi. I forget. I should have made a note of that. But he comes in contact with a Brahmin. It's described that it's a Sandoya Brahmin. And so that particular class is considered as low class. And kind of like, especially it's mentioned that sannyasis don't mix with those Brahmins. What to speak of eating at their house. So Lord Chaitanya meets this Brahmin, and it's mentioned too in the commentary that so these Brahmins, they mostly deal with merchants like gold and silver and stuff like that. I guess they like do pujas and things. So it's like understood they kind of like pretty much they mix with materialists. So they're not very high class. And so like that. So as far as like Varna ashram goes, it's kind of like a no-go. Like you don't mix with those Brahmins. So somehow other it's mentioned that actually Madhavendra Puri ate at that particular Brahmin's house. And so Lord Chaitanya hears that and he's excited and he's ecstatic. He's like, Madhavendra Puri ate at your house, then like, when can I come? So he's very enthusiastic about that. And so Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur makes the point that Madhavendra Puri did that to establish Daivi Varnashram and to reject, what is this? I forget exactly what he says, but pretty much he's rejecting like this other Varnashram, which is based on like caste and things like that. And so Madhavendra Puri took food at that Brahmin's house to show that actually like the main thing of Daivi Varnashram is that if one is behaving like a Brahmin a Vaishnava and exhibiting those qualities, and they're accepted as a Vaishnava and they're considered topmost, and that therefore he ate at his house, even though considering rules and regulations that wasn't proper to do that. So he showed by his example, and that's an important point for us to always remember in Krishna consciousness, that even if someone has been practicing for a year or something, that if they're displaying the qualities of a Vaishnava, they should be respected as a Vaishnava. And of course, there's consideration of seniority and things like that, and we may act that out as a service, but not that it's like we think that we're better than such and such devotee because, whatever, they don't know this, that, and the other thing, parts of culture or like that or whatever, they're muchi or unclean. So if someone is behaving like a Vaishnava and sincerely worshiping Krishna, we take that, and they're on the topmost platform. So Madhavendra Puri showed that, and we see that's common with a lot of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's followers, is that they, if someone is behaving on the topmost platform of Krishna consciousness or sincerely endeavoring in that way, then some of these other things may not be considered. We see that with Haridas Thakur, like that. And some of those individuals too, they may follow some of these social norms. That is also there to teach, because we see also that what is it? I believe it was, I can't remember if it was Haridas. No, I think it was Sanatan Goswami. I can't remember who it was. Vishwachitra just left. But it was one of the followers of Lord Chaitanya. I can't remember who it was. Maybe Sanatana Goswami. But they were avoiding walking directly in front of the gate of Jagannath, and instead of walking on the beach and burning their feet because they were feeling that they were contaminated, and then the Brahmins would come and see them, and then it would contaminate the offering. So then, like this way, he would walk across the beach, and Lord Chaitanya didn't tell him to stop that, from my understanding. I forget exactly who that was. Sanatana Goswami? Okay, yeah. Thank you. So like that. So that is also there. But we see that Lord Chaitanya didn't make the distinction in any of that Brahman's house. So moving on to the last little pastime and the main one, and I'll kind of sum it up here, is the disappearance of Madhavendra Puri. That is extremely instructive because so many different things happened within that time frame, and we could say it's short, it's a long window. But the thing is that that pastime is given actually in the Antya Leela of Chaitanya Charitamrita. And in the Antya Leela, there's so many different, the Antya Leela, it shows the Lord Chaitanya exhibiting the highest levels of Krishna consciousness. And then simultaneously also within the Antya Leela are so many different pertinent instructions given, which I've understood from my spiritual master, which are warning signs of even if one is coming close to the platform of prema of Krishna consciousness, to be careful of. Like this pastime is mentioned of Chota Haridas is given in there, and so many different other things there. Ramananda Roy's pastime is given in there of showing how he was completely above any distinction of mundane lust, and in some respects exhibiting higher renunciation than a sannyasi, which is, you can read that. So in the Antya Leela is described the passing of Madhavendra Puri. And so Madhavendra Puri was passing away, and two of his disciples were there, and Ramachandra Puri and Ishwara Puri. So Ishwara Puri is the spiritual master of Lord Chaitanya. We know that. And then Ramachandra Puri was also a disciple, but there was something wrong with him. So Madhavendra Puri was leaving this world, and he cited a very important verse, which we'll kind of end on that. And so he was pretty much longing to be in Vrindavan and to see Krishna and associate with Krishna. So coming to one of the central points of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas is this separation from Krishna and longing for Krishna's association and experiencing that extreme dejection, sadness, depression, like that. So we can understand that in the spiritual world, in this material world, depression and all those horrible things they manifest. And the material world is usually horrible. People want to end their lives and such like that. So that has its perverted reflection, or at least one aspect of it, is from the devotee's separation from Krishna. So at least from a materialistic point of view, or at least from Ramachandra Puri's point of view, from Ramachandra point of view, Madhavendra Puri was feeling this depression and lamenting at the time of death, which is a huge point because at the time of death, you're supposed to be, what you think of at the time of death, that's what you're going to attain, right? We learned that from Bhagavad Gita. So if you're lamenting at the time of death and hankering over what he's sitting here and he's calling out, to, master a Mathura, what about Brahman? So that's what Ramachandra Puri is thinking. So he instructed Madhavendra Puri that now it's time to think of Brahman. What are you lamenting about? What the heck is going on? He's worried about his spiritual master. But he made a mistake because he was absolutely wrong. He misunderstood Madhavendra Puri's lamentation because it's mentioned, different things are mentioned. It's mentioned in the summary that he was influenced by dry Mayavad, and then in the commentary it's mentioned that he was a latent impersonalist, that it wasn't yet manifest, but he was impersonalist to some degree. And so at that second, it came out, and he made a huge mistake, actually, and he offended his spiritual master when the spiritual master was leaving this world. And I was thinking a couple things about that. I think about this pastime often, but it's just, there's so many different things to learn about that, but it's goes to show that you can be so close to the spiritual master, but then in a second you can completely ruin everything, because that's after that he completely destroyed his spiritual life, as we see. Because the reason that's being mentioned is because Ramachandra Puri came to the associates of Lord Chaitanya, and then if we see there too with the anyways, let me see. I don't even have it up here exactly, but we see in the Anchalila in the 8th chapter that when Ramachandra Puri was coming around to Jagannath Puri, that some of his different godbrothers embraced them, and then there was discussion about Krishna and things like that. And so it wasn't like he was like talking and hanging out with the devotees, but there was understood that there was like something the matter with him, because after that event, it's not described so much, but he took this dry speculation. He was a Mayavad and a personalist to some degree, and then also he had an amazing thing that he liked to do was criticize Vaishnavas. That was like he got taste from that, and so he would just go around and describe. And it's funny, like, to think that like that's that he would go and criticize devotees for like eating, and then he would go to the point where he would personally serve, and then he would force them to take more. Sometimes that happens when prasadam serves out our festival, like take another one. He just like throw stuff on people's plates, and then just like, oh, why did you do that? So he would, anyways, we don't know what he was doing, but he would literally force you to take more. And then after you would take more, then he'd be like, just see, like, this person's like pretending to be like a sannyasi or renounced, but like I can see the followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, like they're not renounced at all, like that. And so he would just like criticize, and he would do that to everybody, up to the point where, due to his offense, actually, he started criticizing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So it's like even going further than that, criticizing his spiritual master, then continuing with Vaishnavas, and then with the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. So like that sense, he was criticizing. And it's described like that too. And then it was, at one point it's mentioned that like he was trying to figure out something wrong with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he couldn't really find out anything, but then he saw some ants. So then he was thinking, well, like, anyways, there's some ants there, so he's probably eating sweets. So then like that, he was saying, like, see these ants. And then there's a picture of that also. I didn't put that picture up here because I don't want to go there. But then he's like criticizing like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that like, see, there's some ants here. And then ants wander around like that, and it's described. It wasn't that Lord Chaitanya was hoarding sweets. Even if he was, whatever. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in that way, he criticized, and then Lord Chaitanya, as the pastime goes, began to reduce his eating, and then all of his followers reduced the eating, and everybody was distressed, and then eventually Ramachandra Puri, left, and everybody was excited that finally he's gone. So like that. And so there's a verse here mentioned, I'll read that. This is in the Anchalila. You don't have to pull it up, but it's Anchalila chapter 8, text 32. So Mahad Anugraha Nigrahera Shakshi Dui Jane E Dui Dware Sikhai La Jagat Jane. So Ishwara Puri received the blessings of Madhavendra Puri, whereas Ramachandra Puri received a rebuke from him. Therefore, these two persons, Ishwara Puri and Ramachandra Puri, are examples of the objects of a great personality's benediction and punishment. Madhavendra Puri instructed the entire world by presenting these two examples. So Madhavendra Puri showed in two examples of a disciple who received the great benediction, another one who received punishment. Of course, we understand that personalities, Vaishnavas, when they punish a personality, is for their benefit. It's not explained so much, or at least I can't think right now, of how Ramachandra Puri was benefited, but it's safe to assume that somewhere down the line, something good happened to him. But it's there anyways, he made it in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So, but it's there to teach us and to show us. And then Ishwara Puri also, who went on to become the spiritual master of Lord Chaitanya and to also exhibit and experience great levels of Krishna consciousness, and who got the service to personally serve his spiritual master at the time of his leaving this world. That is mentioned there also in this pastime. So let's see here. So anyways, there's so much to be learned and understood by that. So Madhavendra Puri and these great devotees, they live their lives, and then they show by their lives of how to be Krishna consciousness and how to live in this world. And then they also show through their example and by others' examples also of things to be careful of and approaching the Krishna consciousness, that even coming to the topmost platform of Krishna consciousness, of always being careful with the spiritual master. Prabhupada would give the example sometimes that the spiritual master is like fire. If you come too close, then you'll get burned. But if you're too far away, then you won't avail benefit. So we have to be careful, because just one little problem can really derail us like that. And so Madhavendra Puri, when he left this world, he chanted this verse, which is mentioned a couple times in Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's an important verse, and so that verse is Aidina Aidina Dayardra Nath He Mathura Nath Kada Valoch Yase Hridayam Twad Alokam Taram Dayita Brahmat Yati Kim Karovyaham. So the translation is, O my Lord, O most merciful Master, O Master of Mathura, when shall I see you again? Because of my not seeing you, my agitated heart has become unsteady. O most beloved one, what shall I do now? So this is the verse that Madhavendra Puri quoted or chanted. Not that he just was quoting some, anyways, but this was his mood and his expression and his Krishna consciousness of feeling that separation, of longing to see Krishna. And we see this exhibited, and the mood continued on with Ishwara Puri and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and then his followers, the six Goswamis, and then like we had that class recently with Narottam Das Thakur, and also with Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta, and continue on in the Parampara. So that's anyways, it's a little bit about Madhavendra Puri and the Bhagavatam verse. So if there's any questions or comments, we can go for it now.
Thank you, Prabhu. I just have a comment. I was recollecting this. We were describing the two different disciples. One is more envious and the other is properly situated. But I was hearing this memory of Sureshwar Prabhu when they're on morning walks with Srila Prabhupada. And of course, all the devotees were fighting to get close to the front.
Yeah.
And Sureshwar Prabhu had devised to get, he was pushing past his god brothers and whatnot. And anyways, Prabhupada was walking fast, and Sureshwar Prabhu was like right behind Prabhupada, and he was kind of like beelining it. And Prabhupada had like suddenly stopped, and Sureshwar Prabhu came he almost smashed into his spiritual master. And then Prabhupada had stopped, and like Sureshwar Prabhu said, like Prabhupada was like right in front of his nose. And he was explaining how actually at that time he felt like he was very much heavily in material consciousness. So he was explaining to me that although one may be nearer to the spiritual master, it doesn't facilitate, spiritual advancement, the proximity, the guru and the disciple. I was just reminded of that.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah.
You briefly mentioned, I just want to confirm, you said Madhavendra Puri really inaugurated the Govardhan Puja festival? Is that what you said?
No.
Sorry.
He had a festival on Govardhan Hill. Not that he inaugurated the Govardhan Puja festival. He saw that deity on top of Govardhan Hill, so they had a festival for the deity installation.
That's still a festival that goes on?
I don't know if that festival still goes on. The thing is that, from my understanding, I think just Vrajabasis are allowed on top of Govardhan or something. We don't go on top of Govardhan.
Yeah.
So it's I think also too, when I don't think Lord Chaitanya even went on that hill. I think he kind of took darshan from a distance or something. That's correct.
Different sect of,
Yeah.
the different sampradaya who've taken over the worship of that temple.
Okay, yeah.
The original temple is much old, like that photo that you
Yeah.
had shown, but now they've established a new temple. But like you said, Vaishnavas don't walk on Govardhan.
Yeah.
So there's a sampradaya or a different sect. I don't know if it's Vallabha sampradaya or I can't
Yeah, I
remember,
don't know.
but it's still there. Yeah, they go up, and there's a whole temple up there, the Gopal deity. But it's not related to Govardhan Puja.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry about that.
No.
Anything from the Monaji side? Yes.
So I've had these questions for a little while, and I'm trying to like tie them into the class. You were speaking about like Madhavendra Puri's his high level of Christian consciousness, and I was just curious, like, for practicing devotees who may feel like, I guess, like discouraged or, depressed because they feel as if, well, they're aware that they're not so advanced at all, and they have a lot of anarthas and really bad habits that they're trying to give up, but they really can't as of now, and they just don't feel so advanced in comparison to who they're around. Like, how can you, what kind of advice could you give to a person like that?
Yeah, so pretty much someone's practicing Krishna consciousness, but we hear these descriptions of, great devotees, and then we kind of feel like, who are we? In that sense, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, in one aspect, that's a good attitude to have. I mean, we shouldn't be overly depressed in the sense that I'll never become Krishna consciousness or I'll only be in Maya, because that's actually not our philosophy. Because Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Daivi Esha Gunamayi Mamaya Dharatya. So he makes the point that by surrendering unto him, one can overcome the illusory energy. So the thing is that in some respects, it's a good kind of attitude to have, to feel that I'm not as advanced as these other great devotees. But in the other aspect, we can see, if we look back in our own lives maybe, and see where we were, maybe when we started Krishna consciousness or whatever, and now that we're more dedicated or doing, have some specific service or trying to move in that direction, there we can get inspiration from that, or at least enthusiasm for that. The thing is that it's I'm kind of thinking it's not such a bad thing to kind of feel in that sense. There will always kind of be ups and downs in Krishna consciousness and times of being really engaged and being not engaged. But the thing is that we just have to keep the center focused on pure devotional service and things like that. But also another aspect too, just to take another angle at it, is that we can also, and that's a common thing that I always say, but we can speak to senior devotees, especially that know us, and they can kind of explain that, okay, well, you've been like this and like that, and you can work more, and there's no reason to be discouraged. I know one time, this devotee in San Diego, did you ever meet, his name is slipping me right now, Virjendra Nandana Prabhu, I think? Yeah, Virjendra Nandana Prabhu. So this devotee, when I used to be in San Diego a while ago, he told this other devotee I was with, the devotee was saying I don't feel like I'm making so much advancement in Krishna consciousness, and I kind of feel stagnant and this and that. And he was which is kind of a common thing in Krishna consciousness. So that devotee explained to him that being on Krishna consciousness is like being on on a train, or we could say being on a car. If you're in a car or a train, you're generally moving pretty quick. And so it may not seem like you're really going much of anywhere and really much is going on. But if you jump out of that car, out of that train, then you realize, wow, it's going pretty quick. So sometimes in Krishna consciousness, we don't realize how powerful it actually is, and how quickly we're actually moving and making advancement and all those different things. It can kind of seem for us it's nothing really much is going on. But then that's also too why our acharyas give these different stages of Krishna consciousness, of of Shraddha, associating with devotees, Anartha Nivritti, being fixed in devotional service, Bhajana Kriya, Ruchi, and like all these different things like that. And there's also another verse in the in the Srimad Bhagavatam, which I'll just read here. And this is in regards to someone who's practicing Krishna consciousness, but having difficulties, and Krishna explains, he explains just to keep going forward. And so this may be relevant also, because sometimes it is difficult. So, having awakened faith in the narration of my glories, being disgusted with all material activities, knowing that all sense gratification leads to misery, but still being unable to renounce all sense enjoyment, my devotee should remain happy and worship me with great faith and conviction. Even though he is sometimes engaged in sense enjoyment, my devotee knows that all sense gratification leads to a miserable result, and sincerely repents such activities. And then one other point is that the description of these great devotees that are given in Bhagavatam, or even like that we see on a day-to-day basis, they're there to help encourage us and show us. And just like we see, if we look at Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes, for instance, and there's also something to that regard, I forget exactly how it's said, but paraphrasing that the associates of Lord Chaitanya, that householders can get inspiration from them. You can get inspiration for everybody in Chaitanya Charitamrita. But like we see, like with Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, for instance, if you look at their prayers, actually, when they met Lord Chaitanya, they present themselves as extremely fallen. And they explain that they were engaged, what is this? They say it twice, actually. But Malecha Sevi, they were engaged in the service of Malecha. Malecha Karma, they engaged in activities of Malecha. What is Malecha Karma, Malecha Sevi? Then one other thing, Nitya Jati. Oh, and they have Nitya Jati, also horrible birth, because they rejected their caste. So if we look at the life of these great devotees, of Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, for instance, and we kind of look at that at least like, because they did appear to teach a certain lesson also, like Haridas Thakur and things, to show that even though we may, be fallen, they're not fallen, but they show that to encourage us and teach us that even though you may be fallen, you can still come to the highest platform of Krishna consciousness. So Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, they quoted these verses exhibiting their extreme humility before Lord Chaitanya. And their situation was that they engaged in the service of Malechas, and he was organizing and all these different things, and more or less became extremely involved in material affairs. But we see that they gave up all those things and engaged in Krishna consciousness. So the point is that there's so many different associates of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and even in this world currently, that we can receive inspiration from to overcome Krishna consciousness and to be enthusiastic and not depressed about where we're situated at. I know we can overcome that. Anyways, a couple of things.
Thank you. And I was wondering, you're speaking about like the mercy of the spiritual master earlier in class. I was wondering, is this a thing, like you can pray like, okay, Krishna, or whatever, like whatever mercy, whatever spiritual benefit I'm supposed to receive, can you give it to like a family member instead, because they might be at the end of their life or something, to help them out?
Yeah, I've heard something like that. You know anything specifically from like Shastra? I've heard like, I know people would do like vratas and things like that for like the benefit of like family members and stuff. I mean, I heard some story recently with some child did that, but I don't want to cite that because like it's like some 5-year-old girl, but she like did that out of sentiment. But I've heard stuff like that. I'd have to look more into it, but I'm trying to think here exactly. Anybody know anything?
That service is for oneself to become a devotee, right?
Yeah, that's there. But that's there. I mean, engaging in Krishna consciousness benefits your family for sure. But specifically just on the subject of like maybe doing something and then offering those results, that's kind of like one on. I mean, anyways, engaging in Krishna consciousness, family does get benefit for sure. And I've seen that in my life. Anyways, I'm not getting all the details, but there was one particular member of my family who passed away, and for most part, like, was not like pious at all, and he left his body like that. And anyways, I was just like thinking that like, and a lot of families were just like confused and like thinking, well, it was going to be like a whole long thing. But at least from my perspective, I was thinking that like, that Krishna kind of like, at least like me trying to surrender and trying to engage, and then like, in a lot of her sense, just kind of like leaving, like, you know, whatever my family situation, at least like the household I grew up in, to engage fully in devotional service, benefited them in so many ways, and specifically with him, by not letting him like suffer so much, more than he probably had to have. But then also too, we can see like if we practice Krishna consciousness, our family, like generally sometimes they become more favorable. I think everybody's kind of had that experience. Mostly everybody. Sometimes they don't. That's because they're demons. But anyways, you don't call your family demons. Anyways, I don't know if that helps or makes sense. So, if we engage in Krishna consciousness, definitely family members will be benefited for sure. Anything else? All right. Thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Vanchakapatarusha Kripa Sandhi Vacha Patidanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavi Namo Namaha.